Friends, welcome to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It's not difficult for you, but it's nice for me, and we're starting. I was watching the latest news on TV when my wife came home late from work. "Boyd, you won't believe who hired me to protect them today. David Bridges," I replied. "How do you know?" "You're on the news." I pointed to the TV on the wall. She looked at the TV, and there she was. Of course, there was an old photo that must have been taken from the company's website, but it was there. She was the latest addition to David Bridges' legal team. It didn't surprise me. She was one of the best celebrity defense lawyers in the country before I demanded that she stop working 100 hours a week. I'm not some Cro-Magnon who doesn't want his wife to work. I just wanted to see her more than once a month. That was 2 years ago. She defended a senator accused of murdering one of her staff. I knew that he was guilty as sin, and I was sure that she was not sure of his innocence either. But that didn't stop her from going through all the evidence for an incredibly long time to find at least the slightest hint of what could be used. In the end, she got the jury to let the bastard go. The district attorney decided not to recharge him, which shocked the whole country. On the third of 3 consecutive days, when I was sleeping in her office during this process, I handed her the divorce papers. In the end, she asked what she could do to avoid losing me. I advised her to quit her job. Even now, when we are over 30, we have more money than we can spend. Some of it came from her clients, but I also made good money as a radio talk show host. I have a syndicated political talk show that is in the top 10 nationwide and ranks first in several markets. She agreed to reduce her time as a consultant and also agreed to finally have children. I held our son Mikey in my arms while she watched the hosts talk about her client and whether she could help him get away with it. I hated that term, getting away with it. It sounded too affectionate. I never suspected her of having an affair. She cared too much about her reputation to cheat on me, and she never took the risk of having bad news written about her. My problem was that she was just working too hard. You probably noticed that I didn't say that she loves me too much to cheat on me. I didn't believe that. Oh, I'm sure she loves me, but more than anything, she loves her job. You probably noticed that I didn't say that she loves me too much to cheat on me. I didn't believe that. Oh, I'm sure she loves me, but more than anything, she loves her job. Having started consulting, she became a favorite of television talk shows when they needed legal analysis. It happened that she was shown on TV every day, and wow, she loves it. "Are you upset?" she asked when the ads were turned on. "What do you think?" I chuckled. "Mikey needs to change his clothes." I took my son to his room and left her not knowing how to behave, which was good. I like to keep her on her toes. She's a control freak, and I was glad when I could put a wrench in her mechanisms. She decided to follow me, and while I was trying to change my diaper, she said, "Everything will not be the same as before. I'm just part of the team, not the lead." I shrugged. "That's it, kid. Everything is fresh and dry." Mikey laughed when I tickled him, which made me smile. I farted into his chubby tummy with my mouth, which made him giggle even more. "Boyd, this is just a tax evasion case. They only need me to help them choose a jury." "Of course," I said, walking past her back into the living room. "You're overreacting," she said. "No, I don't think so," I said childishly. "It will be very important for us. Just the fame of the name." "Not us," I snapped, putting Mikey in the playpen. "What? Not us, Alicia. It's good for you. I have a feeling that this will put an end to us." She screamed, "Bullshit." I shook my head and took the keys from the rack. "Dinner is in the oven, warming up. I'm going to the bar. David Bridges is the former governor of our home state. As soon as he announced his candidacy for the next presidential election, dirt poured down on him from all sides. In the end, he was charged with failing to indicate in his tax return millions of dollars that he allegedly received for some unknown reason from some foreign company, as well as a bunch of accusations of election interference related to his last participation in the gubernatorial elections. The process could be interesting. I just didn't want my wife to practice law again. I lit my Davidoff Churchill cigar in a private room of a nice cigar salon next to my studio. There were a few smokers there, but without saying hello, we left each other alone, unless we received an invitation to join someone. Despite the fact that I am a celebrity, almost everyone is used to the fact that I appear there several times a week. The novelty of Boyd Baxter radio host being a regular passed pretty quickly. "Boyd, help yourself to my scotch," A gentleman called out to me, whom I recognized but did not remember the name. Thank you. I waved my hand and poured myself a hefty portion from the decanter that stood on the table in front of him. I saw the news. I thought you could use a nice belt, he added. Yes, you're right, I said, clinking glasses with him in the air, and walked into the most deserted corner of the room. He took a long drag and exhaled deeply. I briefly wondered if I had overreacted, but came to the conclusion that I had not. I filed for divorce because she worked too hard when she had big cases, and he agreed to take her back only after promising to quit. I didn't feel guilty for making such a condition. She had a decade of successful work at the highest level behind her, and I wanted to have children while we still could. And then she took on another big case without asking my opinion? Yes, it was a slap in the face that I didn't expect. Hell, if she'd asked, I might have agreed, but probably not. I would still like to participate in the decision-making. The TV at the other end of the room caught my attention. Alicia was on TV again with a big smile. I saw the painting behind her and realized that she was in our living room. I was hoping Mikey would start crying. She ate these presenters, manipulated them into believing she was answering their questions without giving them anywhere near what they wanted. It was masterful. Then the presenter, who was my golf buddy, asked, "Will your husband file for divorce again?" "Excuse me," Alicia asked, shocked. "Well, the condition for ending the divorce proceedings with your husband was that you would no longer take clients to lawsuits. It seems to violate your agreement." I sent him a text message. "I owe you a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle for that joke. I assure you my husband fully supports my career decisions." She was excited, and I liked it. "No, I don't," I said out loud, making the guys who knew she was my wife laugh. A few seconds later, my phone rang. "Boyd, this is Dana Collins from the Times. May I ask you a few questions and find out your reaction to the fact that your wife violated your agreement?" "Hi, Dana. It's been too long. We should meet for lunch soon, and maybe I'll invite you to the show again." She replied, "With pleasure. Will you answer my questions?" "No, but I will make a statement. Come on, I am completely stunned. This will probably be the headline of my article. Do you have anything to add? Maybe as a backstory?" "Look, she hasn't done anything yet that could raise old issues. We are happy in love." "Thanks, Boyd. See you soon." Dana is a real star in the news world. I invited her to my show several times to do a favor for her boss. We have a mutually beneficial agreement with him. The phone rang again and I turned it off. I knew that otherwise I would have no peace. Media vultures are circling around, especially since I'm one of them. Damn cannibals. "It's not going to be the same as before," Alicia said when I entered our bedroom. She looked damn good in a floor-length black satin nightgown. The slit on the left ended in the middle of her thigh, and the lace cups for her breasts did not hide her pink areolas at all. She wasn't meant to sleep. "It doesn't matter if it happens or not," I said, trying not to look at her. "You know the stakes. Now everything is different. We have t-shirts." I laughed. "If you think that the fact that we have a son will stop me from wanting a wife who doesn't put her career first, then you're in for a bummer. If you go back to your old habits, you'll be out the door. Baby, we've gone too far. I don't want to fight. Alicia, the time to discuss this was before you got a job. We are now in the aftermath phase. We'll be fine, you'll see. Now go to bed. I want to show you how much I love you." I knew that the next day, when she saw my comments in the Times, she would be furious. But I decided, while it was still possible, to take advantage of the fact that I have a beautiful wife. She knelt down in front of me and took off my shorts and boxers. "You seem to like this nightgown," she teased, swaying in front of her millimeters from her lips. She stuck out her tongue and licked my head, which was wet with liquid. Then her lips wrapped around me. She moaned and plunged me deeper into her warm, moist mouth. "Oh, Alicia, baby." She was stroking me with both hands. That was all she took in her mouth. "I need you inside me," she whispered. I took off my shirt and got out of my pants, and she threw her nightgown on the floor. We hugged and kissed, then fell on the bed, where I knelt, lifted her left leg onto my shoulder, and pressed my hardness into her moisture. "Oh, Boyd, yes," she whispered as I entered her. The softness of her nylon on my cheek was driving me crazy. Her juices were accumulating between us, and the squelching and slurping sounds that were heard at the same time spurred us both to move on, faster, stronger. "God, honey," she moaned. "Stronger, faster, I'm not going to screw up today." I roughly turned her over and without any mercy broke into her depths again. I gave her what she craved, knowing exactly what she wanted. Sometimes she wanted to be hammered into the mattress, and I had no problem fulfilling this requirement. Oh, damn it. Stop it, she screamed. Exactly, that's it. So, oh my God, yeah. I couldn't hold back any longer, and the moment her legs weakened and she fell forward, I started to finish the job and splashed out on her beautiful buttocks. I wanted it all inside me, she purred. I'm sorry, baby. It was you who fell and forced me to finish the job with my hand. You were great. It was great. I smiled proudly, warming a washcloth under water and then wiping my mess from her soft buttocks. Before she fell asleep, she managed to say that she loves me. I wonder how she'll feel about me in the morning. You son of a bitch, she screamed when I entered the kitchen the next morning. Did you hit him surreptitiously? I interrupted her. It's true. You shouldn't have told them that, she shouted. I shrugged my shoulders. It's done. It's going to be talked about all day, Boyd. I laughed. At least they won't talk about your client for a change. Her client was talked about on news programs for weeks before and every day after the indictment. I kissed her on the cheek and decided to have coffee and breakfast on the way to work to avoid her anger. I was wondering how long it would be before she started working 16 hours a day again. We haven't finished discussing this yet, she shouted at my back. I knew she was right. I got to my studio and it was chaos. They worked with me. A young student who answered the phone, a sound engineer, a maintenance technician, and a producer. I prefer to conduct my own investigations, so I don't have a team of people who read the news instead of me, like some of the presenters. Jesus, Boyd. Today the phone is just bursting. I handed her the coffee and said, Turn off the bell, Missy. Let them go to voicemail, and you can filter out important calls so that I can call you back. Thanks, boss. This will help. I entered my office and saw that the producer was already waiting for me. Good morning, Boyd, asked Rose. That's just great, Rosie. What do we have for today? It's hard to avoid the Bridges story, especially since you're involved in it now. It's not me who's involved, it's my wife. The same thing. Get Dana Collins on the show. We'll talk about it and I'll let her lead me to some comments, but let her know that this is not an interview. Yes, I read her article this morning. I swear this woman is not indifferent to your wife. I laughed. No, she's not indifferent to me. I overheard her talking to someone once and I'm using it to my advantage. Don't fool the poor girl, Boyd. I expected this city to chew it up and spit it out a couple of years ago. Hey, never underestimate a farmer's daughter. She's tough as nails. Okay, I'll call her and make an appointment. Thank you, Rose. And also see if Dan Naranya can come. I liked what he did to my wife last night on his show. It's good to have friends, isn't it? You know that. Okay, Boyd, you're live in 5, 4, 3, 2. Rose pointed at me and the scoreboard lit up on the air. Good afternoon, listeners. I'm your handsome host, Boyd Baxter, and I'm joined in the studio by Dana Collins from The Times. Hello, Dana. Hi, Boyd. I'm happy to be here today, especially considering what's going on with your wife. She grinned, and I shook my head. She put on a short skirt and crossed her legs, giving me a great view of their upper part in stockings. I like the look of beautiful legs, especially those covered with black nylon. Yes, I thought you'd mention it. Yes, my wife has agreed to join David Bridges' legal team as a jury consultant. She is no longer involved in representing clients in the courtroom. Jury consultant? Dana asked. Is that what she told you? I stared at her. She dangled the shoe from her foot and smiled. It looks like your wife didn't tell you the whole truth. According to my sources in the Bridges camp, she is the new face of their legal team and will be the first chair at the defense table. I don't care what anonymous sources say. I never use them, I said with a shrug. She laughed. That's because you use articles written by people like me to fill your radio show with content. Wow, I said fervently. I am not a journalist and have never claimed to be one. I'm just hosting a program in which I express my opinion about the news of the day. She smiled and said, And today's news is that your wife came out of retirement and lied to you. Let's move on to the calls, I said, so as not to bury myself even deeper. I couldn't control the conversation anymore. Damn legs. Give me the first line, I said, and tried not to look at Dana when she crossed her legs the other way. I didn't lie to you. I'm just a jury consultant, my wife said defensively through the phone line in the speakers. Well, who is this, if not my beloved wife Alicia? Hi, honey. I'll be home on time today. We'll have a pork roast for dinner. Dana turned on. Hello, Mrs. Baxter. You know perfectly well that my last name is Taylor. My wife didn't take my last name when we got married. She has already built a reputation for herself and has kept it for professional reasons. That's right, Dana said. Mrs. Taylor. Anyway, Alicia said, stop making it up. I'm only joining the legal team to help with jury selection. That's what you're saying, Dana replied. Okay, ladies, enough. Alicia, we'll talk to you at home. But, okay, next caller. Well, it was a damn nightmare, I said after the show ended. I think it went great, Dana said, putting on her shoes. In the middle of the show, she took them off to tease me. Bitch, you owe me, I grumbled. She laughed. How about we invite you to dinner? Forget about your pork roast. Her look scared me to death. I knew she liked me, but it was like I was a bait in the water and she was a hungry shark. Another time, Dana. See you. I got out of there before I did something incredibly stupid and went out to dinner with an amazing redhead. When I got home, I smeared the roast with oil, mixed the seasonings, and rubbed the meat with them. 30 minutes later, I slid the pan into the oven. I fed Mikey his dinner and opened a beer. I couldn't believe it. But I was tormented by the question of who to believe, my wife or Dana's anonymous source. And it drove me crazy. A little over 3 hours later, the table was set. There was a wonderful bottle of Chardonnay in the ice bucket, and the perfectly fried roast remained on the baking sheet ready for cutting. Alicia wasn't at home, but so far she was only half an hour late. I was eating my salad while the clock was ticking, and now she's an hour late. I still don't have a call or text message. I put the roast back in the oven to keep it warm and made myself a martini, which was an hour and a half late. I fought the urge to call her. There was going to be a battle, and I had to come out of it victorious. I turned off the oven when I was 2.5 hours late and went out to dinner. The text came 3 minutes after the steak was served. Where are you? I hung up, sighed, and took another bite of the perfectly fried steak. There is something about a steak cooked at a very high temperature that makes me a happy person. She won't spoil it. 5 minutes later, she texted me again with a question mark. I scooped up some spinach and cream and groaned when I felt the aroma on my tongue. Everything worked out for them that evening. 2 more minutes passed and my phone rang. I sent the call to voicemail because it pisses her off when people do this to her. I felt like I was winning a battle she didn't know about. I'm an adult, aren't I? When my steak was finished, my wine glass was empty, and the last pieces of spinach were collected from the bottom of the plate. I ignored the third call. It was 9:30. When I pulled up to the garage of the house, she was standing in the doorway with her arms folded. I assumed she was upset and tried to put on a frown. Where are you, and why are you ignoring my calls? Stop it! She screamed. I laughed. You know the answer to these questions? Did you even bother to take the roast out of the oven? I went into the kitchen and saw a roast on a baking sheet in the oven. You haven't eaten anything? Wait a minute. What did you eat at work? Pizza. Chinese food. Chinese. Look, it won't always be like this. I don't care what you did. It's important to me that you knew I was cooking dinner for us and didn't call me to tell me you'd be late at work. I'm sorry. You know how it is when... She stopped. I replied, Yes, I know how it is. That's why I filed for divorce, remember? You always forget that you have a husband at home. Only now you also have a child at home. Have you even noticed that Mikey is not at home? I thought he was with you. Wait, where is he? You've noticed now, haven't you? You're a shitty wife when you're doing business, and it turns out you're also a shitty mother. She slapped me in the face. I rubbed my cheek and left the kitchen. Boyd, wait, sorry. I kept walking and went out the front door. She kept calling me as I walked across the lawn to my neighbor's house, who was looking after Mikey. He was sleeping in the playpen that she had set up in the living room for her child and did not move while I carried him to my house. Alicia was silent, holding out her hands, asking for t-shirts. It's not fair. You should have told me that he was at the neighbor's house. I could spend time with him before he wakes up. That's right. It's unfair. Of course, we have a little problem related to the fact that you didn't tell me when you were going to be home. I was mad at you. You and that cheater were rude to me when I called your show. This is different. Just don't call my show. I don't like surprises, and we should always be on the same page. We should be husband and wife. She lied, Boyd. I'm not handling this case. Time will tell, won't it? I went to bed. Have you ever heard of James Anderson? Dana asked me the next day. She stopped me in the parking lot as I was walking to my car after the show. I felt like I was in deep throat with Woodward and Bernstein. No, but should I have? I replied. He is the best behavioral analyst in the country. He has worked on almost all high-profile jury trials over the past 3 years. And? And my source said that David Bridges had just hired him as a jury consultant. So what? So what is your wife for then? What are you trying to do, Dana? Seriously. Are you trying to drive a wedge between me and my wife? She shrugged her shoulders and replied, Just asking questions, Boyd. That's what I'm doing. Then ask someone else and put it in your fucking article. I opened the door, climbed in and slammed it shut. The blow landed on my shoulder, making me cry out in pain. Just fine. She laughed and waved as I drove away. I noticed flickering flesh-colored stockings in the rearview mirror. At 6 o'clock, I gave Mikey his dinner and made myself a sandwich from the leftover roast, and it was quite delicious. Alicia was late again, and again I didn't get a text message or a call. An hour later, she broke into the house through the garage door. I'm sorry, I was busy and couldn't call. When were you tied up? I asked. What do you mean? I mean, you weren't physically tied up, right? You were at a meeting with other lawyers or reading some law book. At any time in these scenarios, you could have picked up your phone and sent me an SMS. Boyd, I apologized. Apologies won't work this time, Alicia. You should spend time with your son before I put him to bed. I left the room and went to my den in the basement. I expected her to follow me with little Mikey, but she didn't. It disappointed me because I was nervous and looking forward to a fight. At halftime of Thursday's football match, I went to the kitchen to get a bottle of water. In fact, I was conducting a reconnaissance regarding my wife. She was eating ice cream and reading something on her tablet when she realized I was nearby and looked up. We need to talk about this, Boyd. There's nothing to talk about. You went back to work and got back into your old problems. Damn, if you're not lying to me, you should have been working only on preparing for jury selection. She looked away and for the first time did not deny that she was lying about the extent of her involvement. I continued, Well, that's it then. I'm not going to play a secondary role in your work anymore. I will update the divorce papers and file them again this week. Damn it, Boyd. We're not getting divorced. I repeat to you that everything is not the same as before. That's right. 2 days at work and you're already 2 to 2 late and not calling. It looks like déjà vu. This is just the beginning. You'll see, everything will be different. I have a lot of catching up to do. Catch up on what? You were supposed to be advising them on how to choose a jury. You don't understand, Boyd. A lot depends on it. Yes? Well, that's fine. I turned and walked away. She rushed after me and put her hand on my chest. I promise that everything will not be the same as before. Prove it. She hugged me and started sobbing. Like a fool, I decided to give her a chance. It lasted 3 days. It was a beautiful Sunday morning, and I was playing hide and seek with Mikey when she came into the room. I need to go to the office for a few hours. I'll be home by noon. What about church and breakfast as we do every week? I asked, and she didn't notice that there was an attitude in my voice. We're going to lunch instead. We can go to that Mexican restaurant in the botanical garden that we like. I'll meet you there at noon, I said, provoking her to be late. She kissed Mikey, then me, said goodbye and left the room. I looked at Mikey and said, Well, baby, what are you going to do, huh? He chuckled, and I returned to our game. At noon, Mikey and I were sitting in a restaurant, and I ordered a quesadilla stuffed tortillas and a Sprite as an appetizer. Mikey was happily chewing on these little fluffy tortillas that were melting in his mouth. It struck 12:30, and the waitress asked, Do you have any news from your partners, or would you like to place an order? No, just the check, please. The baby starts to worry. The restaurant was crowded, and many people were standing in line. I realized that they wanted me to leave. She smiled and patted me on the shoulder. I understand the restless kids. I have 3 myself. She left and my phone rang. I ignored Alicia's call and she sent the following text message. I'm on my way. I'll be there in half an hour. Really, Mikey? I groaned. What should I do with her? No wonder he didn't answer. I typed my answer. I won't be here. I turned off the phone, paid the check, and picking up Mikey went to the car. It's time to act. I can't keep letting her lie to me and actually step over me. She won't be able to make me look like the fool I was the first time. Of course, there's a difference, Mikey, but with her shitty work schedule, I'm sure I can get custody of him. A few minutes later, I walked through my kitchen and threw the keys on the table. I put the t-shirts on the floor, and he, like a wind-up machine, rushed towards the family room, where his toys are. While I was following him, the home phone rang, but I didn't pay attention to it. He likes to be in his playpen, and when he entered the family room, he pulled himself up on his net. Well, does someone want to play in their children's prison, huh? Okay, buddy. As I was sitting him down, the phone rang again. Mom's going to be mad, isn't she? I asked. He giggled and grabbed his watch and talk toy. Mikey, someone said a long time ago, never interfere in the affairs of your enemy when he makes a mistake. Mommy keeps making mistakes. All I heard from him were the words from the toy, look and speak. The cow says, moo. Have fun, buddy, I said before tickling his side, causing a fit of laughter. For some reason, I remembered Robert Plant's cry. Does anyone remember laughter? I made a mental note to listen to something from Zeppelin later. I opened a beer, sat down on the sofa next to my son, and turned on my mobile phone. There were several voicemails from my wife, and I deleted them without listening, being sure that she would repeat herself when she walked through the door. There were several messages from Dana Collins saying that we needed to talk as soon as possible. Of course, I ignored them too. Half an hour had passed, and I was already drinking my second beer when she came into the kitchen. I noticed that her hair was pulled back in a ponytail, which was completely different from what it was in the morning. I raised my hand to keep her from screaming, which was clearly heading in my direction. Mikey's asleep. I nodded towards the playpen where he was snoring like an angel. He should be in his crib. I agreed and let her carry him to the bedroom. While she was doing this, I got into the car and headed to the cigar store. Yes, I know. I was a weakling who ran away from the quarrel, but in my opinion, at that moment the quarrel was unnecessary. My marriage is almost over. She chose her job over us. I was reading an article about bridges with my back to the door when I heard a voice from behind. You're not hard to find, Boyd. If I was trying to hide Dana, I wouldn't be here. She walked in front of me to one of the leather chairs on the other side of the small table. Have you tried this one yet? She asked and showed me a cigar. The choice was good. No, but he has a high rating. Yes, that's what Nick said. Nick is the owner of the salon and always gives recommendations quickly, especially a beautiful woman. This explained how she got into the closed break room. Dana took the lighter from me and caught me looking at her legs. Naked for a change, they still looked amazing. She must have put on lotion recently because they were shiny and looked wet. You're too easy, Boyd, she teased, and crossed her legs the other way. I took a drag on my cigar and roughly blew smoke in her direction. What do you want, Dana? I'm trying to relax here. She frowned for a moment, and sadness appeared in her eyes before she said, I have some bad news. It's going to be on the front pages of the newspapers tomorrow, but I wanted to tell you in person before everything blows up in the wind. She pushed the phone across the table to me and grinned when I looked under her blouse. What should I look for? The video has already been selected. Just look at it. She took a drag on her cigar and coughed. I choked on laughter when I turned on the video on her phone. There was my wife and David Bridges kissing in the office. I threw my phone on the table and sat back down. I'm sorry, Boyd, I'm really sorry, but it's going to get worse. Why would you be sorry? You have an article of the year, and since when do you care about collateral damage? It's never been this close to me, she whispered. I sighed. Do you know what's the worst of all this? She shook her head, and I tried not to burst into tears. I had to look away. It didn't even take that asshole a week to get to her. He also had affairs with 2 other women from his legal team. I shrugged and took another drag. As if it matters. I was going to get a divorce anyway. It just eliminates any chance of getting her back. A smile flickered across Dana's face, then quickly faded. I think she would have liked the breakup of my marriage. She must have thought it would give her an opportunity to come in and comfort my broken heart. Send me this video, please. I can't do that, Boyd. This article is not yet available. To hell with your article, I shouted and slammed my hand on the table. This is my fucking marriage. I stood up and waved a silent apology to a few guys in the room. Okay, she said, retreating without a fight. Just don't advertise it publicly. I snorted. He went to his locker and took out a bottle of 25-year-old Macallan single malt whiskey. If it ever needed to be drunk, it was now. I poured 2 healthy glasses and sat back down. Dana took one of them without asking, and I lit the cigar again. Thanks, she said, taking a sip. I could tell she doesn't drink that much scotch, judging by the way she tried to hide her grimace. To be honest, I never thought that she would cheat on me. I always thought she wouldn't risk her reputation like that. It's about him, you know. It's just that we'll never be able to get any hard evidence. No, it's her fault. For her to make love to him in his office for a week? No, that's what she was looking for. By the way, where did you get this video? Well, installing a camera in this way is a criminal offense, so let's assume that I didn't do it, okay? Let's say it was an anonymous source, and let's leave it as it is. The grin gave her away, but I wasn't going to pursue the subject. Of course, whatever you say. I turned on my phone to save the video to the cloud, and then I got a text message from Alicia. "You need to come home so we can talk." I groaned and dialed. "You don't have to say anything. We're done. You can practice with Bridges as much as you want. Have fun with the press tomorrow." I turned off the phone and watched as Dana tilted her head back and took a long drag on her cigar. There is something unusual about a woman smoking a cigar. Not as unusual as her legs, but still. "The wife?" "What is it?" she asked. I nodded and sipped my whiskey, saying, "I wished her good luck in tomorrow's meeting with the press. She'll think that you came to me with this story. I'm sure you'll testify that I wasn't your anonymous source. Tomorrow's going to be a shitty day for you," she warned. "Yes, I know. In any case, I'm totally fucked, so I'm going to do what I do every day. Chew gum and kick ass. And you have enough enthusiasm? Watch how you describe the trashy movies of the 80s. She laughed and said, "It's a cult classic, dude." After another hour of small talk, my cigar was smoked. If I thought she was going to do that, I would have bought us a couple more, just to keep sneaking glances at her. But it was time to leave. "Buckle up, Boyd," and I meant it when I said I was sorry. "You're a good guy and you don't deserve this." "Yes, well, that's what it is. We'll talk later, maybe." I decided to go to the hotel. I didn't want to talk to my future ex-wife until it became inevitable, and decided that it would happen the next day when shit hits the fan. I woke up at 6 and turned on the news. The shitty show had already started, and it was being shown on all channels. I made a cup of crappy hotel coffee and went to take a shower. I went to the store and bought clothes and toiletries for staying at the hotel. I had no idea if I was going home, and if so, when, so I was preparing to spend a week here. The hot water was nice, even without decent pressure, but it didn't matter. The crappy water pressure was the least of my problems. After the shower, I turned on my phone and ignored all the SMS messages, sending a message to Rose. "I won't have a live broadcast today. Find a guest presenter or record the show." She replied, "I saw the news. Anyway, I'm really sorry." The phone rang, and of course it was Alicia. I ignored him and turned up the volume on the TV. The presenter said, "We have urgent news. In the continuation of the Times newspaper's report on David Bridges' affair with his lawyer Alicia Taylor, a video has appeared. We warn you that it is very naturalistic." I watched a video of them kissing and he groping her breasts. After that, fortunately, the video was cut off, and the co-presenter said, "This contradicts Governor Bridges' statement that there is nothing romantic between him and his lawyer. We have reached out to Alicia Taylor for comment, but have not yet received a response. I decided to read the text message and see what exactly my wife is making excuses for." "What are you talking about? I won't have love with David, stop being an ass and come home." But those who came the next morning sang a different tune. "This is a lie. We don't have an affair. Boyd, please call me. I swear to you, it's a lie. I love you." She must have been watching TV because the next message read, "We just kissed. That's all." And it was a mistake. I shook my head and answered it. "I know there's more to this video. You got caught and we're done." She called again and again. I turned off the call and watched as the announcers expressed their opinions about Bridges and his many alleged affairs. Surprisingly, they paid more attention to him than to my future ex, which even pleased me. I decided that the less her name was mentioned, the less mine would be mentioned. I checked my voicemail. There were a few calls from Alicia, but the rest were from news channels demanding comments from me. For a split second, I thought about getting on one of the shows so they'd get my comment and leave me alone. But I knew that wasn't going to happen. Ultimately, it's better to keep quiet. I did what all offended husbands do. I divided our property, canceled our joint credit cards, arranged with a lawyer to update and file documents. I sought full custody, as she is no longer at home. He was sure that I had every chance of getting at least basic custody when living together, and believed that evidence of infidelity could be used to avoid consultations or time requirements if it came to irreconcilable differences. I didn't feel good, but I felt satisfied that I had put the finishing touches to my false marriage. It's obvious that she loves her job more than me, and it's more than obvious that she doesn't love me enough not to change. Good riddance. I turned on the home security system on my phone and saw her sitting on the couch with Mikey sleeping and crying. I didn't know if she was crying because of me and the loss of our marriage, or because of the shitty show she put on from her blessed career. I was trying to figure out how to get back at Bridges. There was a lot of public humiliation, and whatever his wife was going to do to him, none of it came from me. I felt like I had to do something to preserve my male identity. In the end, I decided that the idea was stupid. He has a whole retinue, and I can't get close to him in any way. And even if I could, I would eventually be captured and either shot or the shit would be beaten out of me. You just have to put up with karma's plans for him. Maybe he'll finish with Alicia. This will teach him. The next day passed in the same spirit, except that I needed to participate in the show. Rose was behaving as usual, and the office was not too noisy. Unless, of course, you count the 20 reporters standing in front of my building. The entrance from the guarded parking lot allowed me to avoid them and get to the office unharmed. Rose said, "Boyd, your friend from the Times said she wouldn't mention your name in the articles if you let her come on the show again." I threw up my hands and groaned. "Are you kidding me? What the hell difference does it make? God, her presence on the show is probably even worse. I can't invite her and not talk about her article." "How are you going to avoid talking about her? This is the most high-profile article of the year. This is my show. I can talk or not talk about what I want to talk about." "Of course," she said, rolling her eyes. "She's right, of course. I got calls from the parent company and sometimes directly from the sponsors if they were annoyed enough. That's life on the radio." "Okay, Dana can come, but tell her to be polite. I have a long memory." "Oh, if you give her a chance, she'll be very nice to you, Boyd." She laughed and left. It's not easy with Dana on the show. I can't control the narrative, and I certainly can't control her reporting language. She will put pressure on me and dance around the topic of my wife until I indirectly give her the answer to every question I don't want to answer. An hour later, I put on my headphones and watched with a smile as Dana did the same. The only difference is that she crossed her legs, which made the bottom of her skirt rise another couple of centimeters. But I'm not wearing a skirt. I saw a notebook in front of her and asked, "Is this a list of questions?" She giggled sweetly and replied, "Of course not. I wouldn't dare come to your show with a list of questions." Rosa started the countdown to the broadcast, and Dana continued, "Besides, I know a lot more than you do. I'm not interested in you anymore. Well, professionally, that is. 3, 2, 1. The opening music started, and I took a deep breath. "Good afternoon again, listeners," I began. "Your handsome host, Boyd Baxter, is here, and Dana Collins from the Times joined me in the studio today. How are you, Dana?" "Great. Thanks for inviting me, Boyd. It's always nice. So, as usual, there is confusion in Congress. Is there anything known about what happens to our beloved monkeys trying to figure out how to make a budget? Everything is the same. Everything is the same. The defense hawks want their own way. The hard right wants to cut everything. The hard left wants to spend everything. And the middle wants to get their piece of the pie for all their favorite projects. No one agrees with anything, and if Congress were a freeway, it would be like Los Angeles on a bad day. You know, as they say, Dana, the opposite of for is against, so the opposite of progress is Congress." She laughed, and a sweet snort escaped her. "Oh my God, I can't believe I snorted on the radio," she moaned. "As the next trick, I'll make milk flow out of your nose. How are politicians like diapers? Both need to be changed regularly for the same reason." She shook her head. "Okay, jokes aside, let's talk on the phone. Doug from Springfield is on the first line. What's going on in the world today, Doug?" "Hi, Boyd. I like your show. I'm sorry about your wife." "Yes, me too." "Boyd, what can we do to fix our broken system? Something has to change in this swamp that you call Washington. Time limits and an audit of their assets before and after, Doug. Maybe when politicians don't travel to Washington to line their pockets, there will be real work." Dana asked, "Do you think that's going to happen, Boyd?" "No. No politician on either side of the aisle will vote for this. Oh, some will say they support it, but they know that it will never happen because it will never be put to a vote." She agreed and said, "Guys like David Bridges think they can get away with anything they want. They think they are invincible." I flinched when she mentioned him, but I didn't stop her. She continued, "They crave power and wealth. They crave the attention of their subordinates, men and women who go out of their way to be the first to agree with them and tell them how wonderful they are. They perform with high moral principles and then have affairs. It's disgusting." "Tell us how you really feel," I chuckled. "I'm sorry if I'm taking this too personally." She softened. "Everything is as it is. My wife is a cheater. What can I do except lose money on her and lawyers?" A quick smile flashed across her face, but she held it back immediately. "Anyway, Annie from Long Island is on line 6. What's on your mind, Annie?" Oh, Boyd, I love it when Miss Collins is on your show. You kids have such sweet chemistry. I laughed. I'm like a pinch of salt, Annie. I blend in well with everyone. Dana rolled her eyes and couldn't hide her smile this time. Do you have a question, my dear Annie? Yes, it's an easy question, but it's for Miss Collins. Young lady, would you like to become a mother? The notorious, what the fuck expression appeared on Dana's face, and she threw her hands up. That's a great question, Annie. Politics and my wife are boring. What is the answer, Dana? And also, Annie, you can't see it, but her face is bright red right now. I love kids, Dana replied, avoiding the question, as did the politicians she covered. Annie chirped. You're better because Boyd needs to think about his adorable boy. Okay, I interrupted, ending the conversation. We love you, Annie. Thanks for the call. Looks like it's time to pay some bills. We'll be back soon. Oh my God, Dana exclaimed. It's going to be a fun day, I moaned. Rose gave us the thumbs up twice, as if the broadcast was great. Maybe it is, but I didn't feel that good. 3 hours later, I said, and see you tomorrow. Don't leave us. The on-air display went off, and I threw my headphones on the table. Dana carefully hung hers on the hook opposite. Well, that was something, she said. I didn't expect little old ladies to roast me today, that's for sure. Hey, these little old ladies love me. I am very popular in book clubs for septuagenarians. She giggled. I'm sure they're your bread and butter. Be careful. They also read newspapers. They're starting to look at your comments and articles. Do I want to be a mother? What kind of question is that? I laughed as I packed my notebooks in my bag. The question is quite reasonable, and do not think that I did not notice that you did not answer it. I glanced at her and she frowned. I don't see myself as a mother. I love children, I really do. It's just that with this job, I don't see how I can find the time for them. Suddenly, she became sad and said, God, forgive me. I've got it all. Don't worry about it, I said, interrupting her. I will say that children are not so bad. I'm going to pick up mine from kindergarten, and we're going to play trucks. How can you be so cold-blooded, Boyd? Your marriage is falling apart and you're acting like it's just another Tuesday. What do you want me to do? I can't curl up and cry. I have a child, a job. I have to keep myself in control so that everything around me remains intact. I'm holding myself together and getting on with my life, Dana. What else can I do? I don't know. I probably expected more emotions. I laughed. Emotions are for weaklings. I didn't really believe it, and she saw through it. She touched my cheek and frowned. I'm sorry, Dana. I need to go to kindergarten. Thank you for coming to the show again. At any time. If you need anything, call me. I'm serious. Anything. She smiled, and I left. Asterisk, 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 life went on, and a month later I was sitting in my lawyer's office waiting for Alicia to speak. Boyd, I'm really sorry. It was a mistake. Alicia, I don't want to hear this. If you think that the reason for our divorce is that you made love to this asshole a few days after you met, then you are sorely mistaken. Take it easy. My lawyer warned me when I got a little hot. Listen to me. Yes, your love for him is in itself the reason for the divorce, but you forget that you have returned to your bad habits since the moment when I first filed for divorce. You were late, you lied, and in fact, you put your job ahead of our marriage and our child. This is unacceptable to me, and you knew it. That's why you didn't talk to me when you accepted this job. Boyd, this was supposed to be just jury counseling. Yes, I heard that. Only it wasn't like that, was it? No, I didn't think so. You're getting carried away again. It's like heroin to you. To be honest, I'm absolutely sure that you've cheated on me before. Just sign the papers. I'm doing more than fair. I want primary custody, she said, and tears rolled down her cheeks. I laughed, and my lawyer said, Miss Taylor, this is completely unacceptable to us. There is no situation in which my client would relinquish primary custody, and given your work schedule, we are quite confident that the judge will agree that this is in the best interests and well-being of Michael. Damn it, Alicia. My investigator says you've been working 14 hours a day all week, and you haven't asked to see Mikey once since you moved in a few weeks ago. Who are you kidding? I love him, she whispered. I know you do. You just love your job more. You can see him whenever you want. I'm not going to be a jerk about it. I love you, Boyd. I really do. Yes, while fooling me, baby. I left the office and later found out that she had signed the papers. My marriage was over. 6 months later, Alicia came to Mikey's for the weekend, and I walked into the cigar lounge. I asked, walking up to the counter, How are you doing, Boyd? A box of Montecristo Num 2 has arrived for you. I put it in your locker. Thanks. Are there a lot of people today? No, just a few regulars and a hot chick who's been here a few times and just bought a season ticket. Cool, see you later. I entered my code and entered the VIP lounge. The smell of cedar and stale cigar smoke was simply heavenly. I nodded to the guys I'd seen earlier, but I didn't notice any beauties, so I headed to the locker to get my Cuban treats. Hi, Boyd. It's been a while. I smiled and took out a second cigar. Hi, Dana. Do you want to try a Cuban cigar today? I closed my locker and handed her the contraband. Thank you, she said. I was kind of watching you. You're doing it pretty shitty, I said as we approached a couple of chairs. I'm not hard to find, and you have my phone numbers. She frowned as she cut off the end of her cigar. I'm a little nervous about it. She took an expensive lighter from her purse and set fire to 15 centimeters of aged tobacco. I laughed and blew on the orange ring around the tip of my cigar. What exactly is making you nervous? I wanted to invite you to dinner. Come on, I laughed. A woman wearing short skirts, crossing her legs and clicking her heels to tease me, is nervous when she asks me to have dinner with her? You're a fucking talker. She shook her head. It's very tasty. Thank you. I nodded. Boyd, I've never really dated. There was no time. Teasing you was easy. I've never had a problem using love to get what I want from men and some women. I raised my eyebrows in surprise. I didn't know she liked women. Stop it, you pervert. I'm not into women. Wow, she can read minds. It is noted. Listen, I'm poking my nose into other people's business here and I don't want to get a piece of shit for it. Yes. She exhaled white smoke and asked, What? Yes, I'm going to dinner with you. Will you go? What is it? She asked stupidly. What's the big deal? Do you think you're ugly or something? I asked. No, don't know. As I said, I'm not used to going on dates often. Okay, let's finish this and go across the street to that little Italian restaurant. After dinner, we were enjoying a glass of wine on my couch when I asked, So, do you have time to date me now? Or am I something like a one-night stand for you? She laughed. No, have you heard that I no longer work at the Times? No, I probably missed it. Now I'm on television. You know this show, you've been on it. There are a few of our ladies sitting on the couch with a guy or two. Oh, of course, I like this show. It's like eye candy for us reporters. She laughed. I guess it is. Although I wore pantsuits twice last week. I would change the channel. We laughed together, and then she asked, You like my legs, don't you? Oh, don't start talking nonsense about who I am again. You know perfectly well that I like your legs. What about my feet? What is it? She asked, turning around and placing her feet on my lap. I shrugged and put the wine on the table. You're wearing jeans and socks today. Not the prettiest outfit. I stroked her foot, which made her moan. I didn't expect to see you today. I should have gone home and changed for you. There's no need for that. Your jeans accentuate your ass perfectly. What about my face? Am I not beautiful? No, you're what we call ugly. Is she ugly? She screamed. Yeah, well, you know, everything is fine except for the face. She tried to pull her legs off me, but I held them back. Don't be mad, I'm just kidding. You are an amazing woman. Well, that's a little better. She took a sip of wine and asked, Would you mind if I asked you to carry me to your bed? No, baby. I'm not going to hold a grudge against you, but I'm going to stick it in you. She rolled her eyes and remarked reproachfully, You're spoiling the mood, Mr. Comedian. Well, then I'll have to fix it. Let's go. I took her to my bedroom where she went to the bathroom. I took the opportunity to check the drawer for condoms, then undressed. Only the table lamp illuminated the room when I sat down on the bed. My soldier stood in full combat readiness in anticipation of the fact that a wonderful journalist would finally join me. When the bathroom door opened, she did not enter the room, but stuck out her bare leg and slid her foot over the door jamb, giving me a beautiful show. God, I moaned. She rounded the jamb as if on a pole and gracefully entered the room, naked as on her birthday. Her breasts, barely able to fit into a handful, rose proudly. The scattering of her freckles beckoned to me like a sailor looking up at the night sky. Her trimmed crimson bush pointed the way down in the form of a neat landing strip of short curls, and only a hint of her moist lips teased me. Do you approve? What is it? She asked. Yes, damn it, come here, honey. She barely had time to sit down on the bed before our lips met and tongues danced. She tasted like wine, and I was eager to lick it off her while we were kissing. My hand went down and squeezed the elastic ass, and then ran my finger through the curls and penetrated between the waiting lips. "Boyd," she moaned into my mouth as my middle finger slid inside her tight tunnel. He didn't smash the ground to smithereens, but she seemed to like it so much that she kissed her way down my body and took my furious hardness in her mouth. "God, it feels good," I moaned as she led me further than Alicia had ever tried. "Mmm," she moaned, sending vibrations into my toes. I let her fondle me for a few minutes, then gently pulled her head away from me and smiled. "It's time to start the main course, honey." She smiled, sat up and kissed me, and then settled on my hips. "You have a very beautiful penis, Boyd. Let me ride until I get used to you, okay?" "Of course. Use me, baby." She rolled her eyes and slowly lowered herself, introducing me inch by inch into her tightness. "Oh yes," she whispered as I stretched her ready-made walls. "So damn good." When her ass touched my thighs, she took a deep breath and tilted her head back. Her wet hair was plastered to her forehead, and she looked as beautiful as I'd ever seen her. Our pelvises have closed. I squeezed her with both hands and tickled her anus. "Boyd, that's great, but you'll never put that log in there." I giggled and moved my hips towards her, rocking back and forth, driving her even more insane with pleasure. It didn't take long for her to rock back and forth, teasing me. "God," I moaned. "God, that's for sure," she agreed, leaning against my side and burying her sweaty face in my chest. "I can get used to it." I kissed her on the forehead and asked, "Do you want to?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, do you want to get used to it? I'm accepting applications for my girlfriend, and so far the only applicant is you." She patted my chest and replied, "I would like that very much. I have more free time now. If you think about the longer term, then I'm ready to become a mom." "All right," I replied. "But first, let's see how you handle being a stepmother, okay?" I laughed and she slapped my chest. "I'm not cheating," she whispered. "Me too," I said, and kissed the top of her head again. "In Dana, I think I've found a woman who cares about her family more than her job. Time will tell, but half the fun is to find out. After all, if we knew what the future holds for us, life would be damn boring."